Hello guys, it's Ben here from Next Gen Base, and it's Cyberpunk 2077 time. Everyone seems to be all over it at the minute. Just to clarify, we did not get early access to Cyberpunk 2077. We didn't get an early code from CD Projekt Red, so that's why the content isn't kind of there for launch, I guess. We wanted to, unfortunately we didn't get hold of a copy. So this first off is running on PC. This is my PC that I've got at home. You can see the specs up there in the corner, and this is running at the Ultra RT settings. I have an LG OLED, so the frame rate sort of dipping around the 55 down to 45 mark doesn't impact me too much because of the VRR, so the variable refresh rate, which smooths it all out quite a lot. So it's not a huge impact to me on there. But this is moving into the game running on the PS5. So obviously Cyberpunk is getting its next gen patch next year. That's what they've, that's what CD Projekt are telling us at the moment. So they're aiming to have that game optimised for the Series X and the PS5 next year, but this is just the PS4 version running on the PS5. My understanding is that the Series X has an option to switch between the performance mode and the fidelity mode, but the PS5 kind of by default runs in that performance mode. So I think the resolution is around 1080p. I haven't been able to confirm that, but it kind of looks, it looks okay, and it runs at 60 for the most part of the early going at least. This is just going to be the opening scene of the Nomad path, because ultimately, we tried to get all of this out today. We will try and get more content out as patches come and things like that, because we're about to see kind of just sort of how rough this can get. I mean, we've moved into the PS4 Pro here. It's essentially the same graphical settings as the PS5, but that's the PS5 version, I should say. But the PS4 Pro runs at 30 frames a second, so it's fairly certain that the PS5 has a toggle on it somewhere that will allow this to run at 60 frames a second. I don't think this is unlocked on the PS4 Pro because, it is essentially hitting 30 frames a second consistently, and if it was unlocked it would kind of waver all over above that. So as I say, the performance is a strange one. It kind of hovers around that 30 more or less consistently. Every so often you'll get a few dips, but the biggest thing for me is the HDR implementation. It kind of seems a little bit broken on the PS4 and the PS5 and the PS4 Pro. It's a really odd one. There's a lot of customization options, as you probably expect on PC. You can set your gamma and everything else once you've applied HDR, but on the PlayStations you can't. You can't set anything other than HDR basically on or off, and it's a weird one. I will, full disclosure, I've done a little bit of colour correction on some of this to kind of try and match them up as best I can. The PC obviously looks a league apart because of the way that it's done, the customization options, but the PS4 Pro and the PS5, I've had to try and get them to match as closely as I can. So if there are differences in the colours, it's not huge. It's just kind of the way that we've had to do the video to make it look kind of natural. But you can see with the PS4 version it looks quite blurry. I think the resolution's 720p. This is a quick example. This is the mechanic standing in front of the car on the PC, and you can see when we switch over to the other consoles, you can see the lack of detail under the hood. That sort of embossed nature around the vents isn't there on the consoles, and the textures just look a little bit worse. The guy doesn't look great, and I think the PS5 and the PS4 Pro, as I say, they're using similar graphical settings, so I'm kind of going to revert to just showing the PS5 version now. I say the PS5 version, sorry, the PS4 game running on the PS5, because essentially, the only difference in the PS5 and the PS4 Pro is the frame rate, where the PS5 will kind of hit higher frame rates than the PS4 Pro. But you can see there on the PS4 version, the base one, it just looks really blurry. Like It's really disappointing to see this, and there's a lot of talk about bugs at the moment, and this is just going to point out here. The PC version's on your right, so you can see there that when it's unplugged, the cable actually comes out of the engine, whereas on the PS4, the cable stays in there, and then he puts another cable in over the top of it, and it just doesn't really look that great. Moving to the little bit now where you go up to the top of the radio tower, again, the PS4 just... It looks like really blurry. Once again, I think it's hitting that 30 frames, but I'm really disappointed with how this looks. I can't kind of say it any other way. It's quite jarring when you go between the PC version and the PS4 version. I know that it's not an entirely fair comparison because this is the PC running on Ultra with ray tracing enabled, and the PS4, it's a PS4, it's a 7-year-old console, and I completely get that people will probably say that it's not a fair comparison, and it isn't. Ultimately it's not. I wouldn't expect my PS5 to match my PC even with a brand new native game. So to expect a 7-year-old console to match it is well out of whack. You just can't expect that. But I did expect a little bit more. I mean, the textures just look really blurry, and everything just kind of looks like it's had that Vaseline smear over the lens. As I said, I've not gotten too far into the game. Basically, we kind of played through this opening area of the Nomad path about 6 or 7 times in the very, very early hours of the morning once the game unlocked. Then I had to go to work, and now I'm sat here editing it. So ultimately, I've not played a huge amount, so I can't report on a huge amount of bugs or anything like that I've seen. There is a bugged collectible up on the top of this here, but that other graphical bug with the cables, that's the first one that I really noticed. I mean, this is the PS4. This is the PS5 running the game, and once again, it looks a bit better. I think this is aiming for 1080p. I think this is hitting 1080p, and it's more or less maintaining a steady 60 FPS. It's just when you compare it to the PC version, you kind of look at it and go, oh, okay, well maybe this is what the next gen optimized version will do. And again, this kind of looks a lot more contrasty. It looks a lot better because of the visual options that you get on the PC, and you can just see there with the texture quality on the PC, it's a hell of a lot better than it is on the consoles, which again, to be expected. But so we're going to take a quick look now at the differences between the PS4, the PS5, and the PC textures. The biggest kind of jarring one to me was that door here. So the PS4 is on the left, the PS5 is in the middle, and the PC is on the right. So you can just see the difference in quality of texture. I mean, the exclamation mark on the PS4 isn't even there because the texture is rendering at such a low quality resolution. So this is PC footage for the first time that we meet Jackie. You can see here that everything looks nice and crisp. It's running, like I say, 4K with DLSS enabled using the Ultra RT preset, and it's my PC gets pretty loud, but as soon as we switch over to the PS4, you can immediately see, like, there's just this, you can see what I mean with the HDR being kind of washed out. We normally capture in HDR and tone map accordingly. This is using the exact same settings that we do for all of our other games, but it just kind of, you get that Fallout or the early Call of Duties, that washed out brown look. The PS5 is a little bit better. It's sort of, it's a little bit more saturated. You get a little bit less of that brown hue, but it's still very much there, and it just doesn't really look that great. You kind of get this sepia feel to it. It's almost like an old-timey photo that's been washed out, really. Going into this next section here, where we check the manifest, it gives you another idea of how detailed the textures are on PC compared to the console. You can easily make out all of the words on that piece of paper there on the manifest. Whereas when we switch to the PS4 and the PS5, you can see that it's just, again, really blurry. It's hard to read. The PS4 is rendering at 30 frames a second. PS5 is hitting 60, but you just have that lower resolution, that lower fidelity on your textures, and it does impact the game. Like you know, there's no doubt about it. When you're playing it on the PS4, it's kind of it's a real slog to get through. I mean, particularly going from the PC version to it. So the last little bit that we're going to do for now is the final chase sequence with the PS4. And then going into the PS5 and then the PC to finish it up. I mean, this is it's fine. Like, you know, this is the kind of level of fidelity that you're going to expect on the PS4 at this point from this game. It's just a real disappointment to me so far with how how it runs on the base console. Moving into the PS5, we can see that yes, it does run a lot smoother, and to be fair, I don't think this looks too bad. I know a lot of people have said that they think it looks awful on the PS5. I don't think it looks terrible. I think the fact that they've upped the textures, and it's just the HDR issues, and I really don't know what it is. Like, obviously CDPR are a PC developer first and foremost, but when we have consoles coming out that can do HDR very well, you expect to see more options available, and unfortunately they're just not there. So this is moving into the PC version, and once again this is with my tweaked settings for the gamma and the HDR and everything else like that. This is how it does look a little bit dark, but that's primarily due to the capture, and I've tried to raise it as best I can, but it doesn't look great all the time. But in terms of the lighting, that is. But in terms of the graphical fidelity and the frame rate and everything, if you have access to a PC that is capable of running this game at max settings, then I think that's the way to do it. At the moment, there's a lot of talk going around about bugs and the graphics and the frame rates and everything else surrounding Cyberpunk 2077, and ultimately at the minute, my recommendation would be to just hold off if you can do, or if you can play it on a PC that can perform to the settings that you would like to see it at, then that's probably the option for you. But for now, that's going to do us. I'm going to go and play some more Cyberpunk and capture some more footage to hopefully give you guys a little bit more footage to dwell over and have a look at and analyse and all the rest of it, and leave snarky comments, because that's what people are prone to doing. But hey, it's the internet. So that's going to do us. Thank you for joining us. If you've enjoyed the video, do drop us a like, leave us a comment, subscribe to the channel, because it really does help us out quite a lot, and we will see you guys soon for some more coverage. All right, cheers guys, take care, bye bye.